So what are we going to discuss today? First of all, we'll look at the exports dynamics with a focus on the UK food and drinks exports. Then we'll have a look at the economic outlook and how the countries are recovering post-COVID. And we will finish with the softer stuff. We will discuss the trends that have accelerated post-COVID. And we will look at the emerging categories, growing categories in the UK. We've also built scorecards to help you prioritize the potential export markets for the selected trending categories in the UK and globally. So why does export matter? According to the UK Trade and Investment, businesses are 11% more likely to survive if they export. And although we've started seeing some recovery from the deepest recession we've ever seen in decades, some areas of the British economy remain quite fragile. So it's quite wise for the companies to start doing some thinking on how to boost turnover and improve innovation. And obviously entering export markets support these goals, as well as can also reduce exposure to risk by contributing sales across various countries and regions. And here planning becomes critical. For example, China and the US can be seen as the lands of opportunity when it comes to exporting, but only if you have the right product for the right market. And obviously there is no point in exporting if you have a product that fails to stand out in your own or any given market. And points of difference here are essential. Businesses should target the countries they think will give them the best initial route to market. And once they've done that, it's obviously also important to find the right partner on the ground. And I genuinely hope by the end of today's presentation, you will have some solid starting point and will start reflecting and planning export of your products better, or if you are not doing this, you'll start thinking about this. So let's have a look at global export overview. Global export value grew over 2014-2019 to reach $24.6 trillion US dollars in 2019. However, rising trade tensions and protectionist policies led to a decline in exports in 2019. In terms of countries, China, the US, and Germany remain the largest exporters globally, thanks to strong manufacturing and R&D capabilities and growing exports of energy and commodities. And in terms of industries, high-tech goods, energy, and transport equipment accounted for the largest share of global exports in 2019. Increasing demand for aerospace and automotive goods, as well as rising B2B demand for electronics, also supported growth in exports. And on the other hand, total export value of energy commodities declined as a result of declining commodity prices and the green energy boom. Now let's have a look at some key export facts. So the largest regions in terms of export value were Western Europe and Asia Pacific. Top 10 exporters in 2019 were China, US, Germany, Japan, UK, and others. And among top fastest growing exporters during the 2014-2019, we see Vietnam, Ireland, Ghana, Cambodia, and others. If we look at global food, beverages and tobacco export, we see the top exporters were also US, Germany, Netherlands, France, China. Importers, more or less the same, with the US, Germany, China, UK, and Japan being at the top. And obviously, COVID has disrupted trade, but also production across the globe. It is forecasted global production value to recover from the COVID-19 shock and return to steady growth during the period of 2021-2030 to reach $260 68 trillion US dollars in 2030. And the recovery will be associated with middle class expansion in emerging markets, government investment in infrastructure projects, and recovery in the B2B segment. Now let's have a look at the state of the UK export. Trade in the UK is set to witness a slow recovery, unfortunately, due to the adverse impacts of Brexit and the COVID-19 pandemic on global trade. Over 2020, the UK's exports deteriorated as a result of disruptions in global trade flows, a sharp fall in oil prices, and Brexit uncertainties. According to the Office for National Statistics, petroleum products and machinery and transport equipment witnessed the largest fall in exports. Imports, however, experience an even sharper contraction than exports due to sluggish domestic demand. Trade is anticipated to rebound gradually in the medium term as the pandemic wanes and main trading partners, including Western European economies, as well as the China and the US start recovering. However, trade flows will still be partly hindered by the long-lasting impacts of Brexit and the COVID-19 pandemic on global trade and supply chains. And despite free trade agreements signed with Japan, Canada, and the EU by the end of the year, businesses are likely to face post-Brexit trade disruptions due to new trading rules and customs procedures, putting downward pressure on trade growth in the UK. If we looked at exports by commodity in the UK, we'd see that foodstuffs account for 4.3% of total exports by commodity in the UK. Top 10 exports destinations in the UK in 2020 were the US, Germany, Ireland, Netherlands, France, and we've seen growth of exports into Ireland, Netherlands, France being the top three. Now here you see the exports focusing on British foods exports, and we see the dynamics, the change between 2014 Q4 and 2020 Q4. We see after sharp decline in 2020 Q2, the British food exports has started to rebound, and so the trend, overall trend across the countries looks positive. The situation with British drinks exports is slightly more versatile. We see that Belgium and the countries that are recovering post-COVID slowly, the drinks exports wouldn't be, the trend wouldn't be that positive as, for example, we see with the drinks exports into the United Arab Emirates. And I would like to wrap up this section on exports by looking into the key trends, B2B trends impacting economies, businesses, and consumers. Although COVID made a lot of damage, it also pushed companies to be more innovative and embrace new ways of producing, selling, and trading their goods. We've started seeing the rise of microfactories to shield themselves from future supply chain disruptions. Many companies plan to create networks of semi-independent production hubs. This will help to improve operational flexibility and diversify supply risks. Microfactories can help to make supply chains more flexible, reduce transportation costs, and be closer to end consumers. E-commerce is a big theme, obviously, everywhere. And as the outbreak of COVID-19 changed the way consumers buy goods, B2B companies will have to adapt and increase investment in e-commerce platforms to meet consumer needs and diversify sales risks. The global B2B e-commerce market is forecast to more than double by 2030, as companies invest in new sales channels after the COVID-19 pandemic. And this market will reach $6.3 trillion in 2030. It's also interesting to look at the goods e-commerce, and Euromonitor's e-commerce index, e-commerce readiness model shows that there is a potential of $77.7 billion in additional goods e-commerce sales across all geographies, and that's a massive potential. Transformation of supply chains is another trend, as companies are aiming to make their supply and production networks more resilient, and investment in digital supply chain management tools and expansion of the supplier pool is expected to increase flexibility and reduce costs. Product localization is also a big trend right now. The outbreak of COVID-19 exposed the existing risks in the current supply chains, and to shield themselves from similar risks in the future, companies are expected to increase product localization, which will allow companies better distribute resources across different manufacturing hubs. And manufacturers of critical components aim to diversify operational risks. Production localization in pharmaceuticals, food products, chemicals, machinery, and other industries is forecast to increase. We've been talking about sustainability trend for quite a while now, and there are different angles to look at sustainability at the moment. If we look at sustainability in packaging, obviously this is slightly paused right now. However, the changes in legislation and consumer preferences have put more pressures on companies to meet sustainability goals. And at the same time, the green revolution provides new growth opportunities and can help to reduce energy costs. I'm sure you are interested to see how the countries are recovering post-COVID. So let's have a look at the global economic outlook. The global recession of 2020 was actually milder than expected, with global real GDP in 2020 contracting by 3.6%. This mainly reflects a faster than expected recovery in advanced economies in Q3, from the initial COVID-19 wave lockdowns, followed by a more moderate than expected economic impact of pandemic restrictions in Q4 2020. Many economies, especially in Europe, are still subject to significant social distancing and economic activity restrictions in Q1 2021. However, global economic outlook has nevertheless substantially improved since the end of 2020. We forecast that global real GDP growth in 2020 will be 5.3%. Our baseline forecast range, and I will be referring to this in the next slide as well, is between 4.3 and 6.3%. And the baseline forecast is assigned 45-55% probability. The global recovery is expected to continue in 2022 with real GDP growth of around 4% under the baseline forecast. And the global economic recovery in 2021-2022 will still leave global real GDP around 3.7% below the pre-pandemic forecast level. The overall outlook is more optimistic, as we see in Q1, and the downside risks are significantly lower. Obviously, the emergence of several highly effective vaccines and the start of mass vaccination campaigns helps this. The election of Joe Biden as the US president has also eliminated the risks of global trade war and trade war with China. And the new free trade agreement signed between the EU and the UK in December has eliminated the risks of no-deal Brexit scenario. Now let's have a deeper look at the global recovery maps. So before I explain what you see right now, I'll tell you what is Euromonster's recovery index. So Euromonitor has developed a recovery index that is a composite index which provides a quick overview of economic and consumer activity and helps businesses to predict recovery in consumer demand across 48 major economies. The index takes into consideration total GDP and factors that determine consumer demand, which is employment, consumer spend, retail sales, and consumer confidence. Index scores measure the change relative to the average per quarter for 2019. So a score of 100, so the dark blue here, and over indicates a full recovery in which economic output, labor market, and consumer spending all return to or exceed 2019 levels. So this first global map, which represents the global picture, economic picture in Q1 2020, shows that most of the countries, most of the world is still doing, was still doing quite all right. There were countries that were in the recession pre-pandemic, for example, Argentina, and we already see the economic decline in the countries that were the first to experience first COVID cases, which is, as you may see, China, some Scandinavian countries. Now, fast forward to Q4 2020. Here we see a completely different picture, with China being the only country on the list where all pillars of recovery have surpassed 2019 levels and is therefore boasting the strongest recovery by far. Our recovery index score for China already exceeded the 2019 average in Q3 and increased further in Q4 2020. We also see Australia is on track to rebound strongly, was on track to rebound strongly, as the country has suppressed the second wave of the pandemic and infection rates remain low, providing confidence for consumers and businesses. Switzerland was also doing quite all right due to a strong comeback in consumer confidence. Now, fast forward into the future, and here we have the Q4 2021. It is forecasted, and as you will see, more countries are blue, which means their recovery index score will be 100 or over. And yes, we forecast more countries will see strong recovery by the end of 2021. Lithuania, my country, Nordic countries, and some other countries are expected to have a recorded recovery index scores of 100 or over due to a strong rebound in retail sales and consumer confidence. The rebound in consumer demand in a number of countries in Northern Europe was thanks to effective pandemic responses combined with continued financial stimulus that helped drive a rebound in consumer confidence and spending. The US and German economies are expected to recover by the end of 2021. In the US, there are also some positive news of successful COVID-19 vaccine tests, which reduced uncertainty about the end of pandemic, and together with expectations of a new fiscal stimulus package, this has boosted consumer confidence already in Q4 2020. The Eurozone economy and EU is obviously the largest export market, one of the largest export markets for the UK. The economy contracted by 6.8% in 2020, but it was less than expected due to a strong economic rebound in Q3 and more moderate lockdown effects in Q4. However, the pandemic wave starting in Q4 is likely to reduce economic growth in 2021 more than previously expected. In our baseline forecast, Eurozone real GDP should grow by between 3.3 and 4.8% in 2021, and between 2.5–4.5% in 2022. A quick look into the UK prospects. The UK witnessed one of the worst economic contractions across Western European countries, and it contracted by a record of 9.9%. This was the largest economic drop the country has ever faced, and it was much deeper than the 2009 recession, when real GDP shrunk by 4.1%. In 2021, the UK's real GDP growth should reach 4%, followed by 4.8% in 2022. And a key challenge for the UK will be combating the rising unemployment, which is forecast to reach 6.7% in 2021, according to our forecasts. In Q1 2021, the UK's economy was negatively impacted by a drop in retail sales, prompted by the decline in consumer spending and poorer prospects in the employment market. However, growing consumer confidence slightly helped to pick up economic activity in Q1 2021. We forecast that the services-based economy will bounce back in the second half of 2021. However, the UK is anticipated to be one of the last to recover from the pandemic among regional peers, and economic output is expected to return to 2019 levels only in 2024 due to a further rise in unemployment, weak business investment, tepid productivity growth, and the adverse effects of Brexit. On a positive side, I would like to say that we do review our forecasts quarterly, and I hope if we speak in 3 months, the forecasts will be a little bit more positive. Now let's have a look at the trends that have accelerated post-COVID at the fastest growing food and drinks categories in the UK, and as well as the potential priority export markets for you. So the trends that accelerated post-COVID, obviously health is in the spotlight. Healthy eating, healthy drinking in a post-better for you world is a big trend that has accelerated post-COVID. A few years ago, reduced sugar, salt, or low-cal foods were in high demand as they were treated as healthier. Today, consumers understand that reduced or low-content products are being produced with additional not-so-good ingredients. So the more holistic health approach is now leading its way. We've spoken, and I've mentioned that sustainability is a big thing, and one of the trends that is a very hot topic in foods is plant-based eating and alternative proteins. We've had a wave of vegetarianism turning into veganism, and at the moment, consumers do not want to limit their diet completely or to be labeled as vegans or vegetarians, but they are looking for a healthier and more sustainable foods, what's important. And with that, the plant-based alternative are coming to play. And it's not about complete dairy or meat avoidance today. It's about a balance and innovation. Food with functional claims and drinks with functional claims are also in this spotlight. And functionality actually in drinks has been the next steps for beverages to double down their healthy positioning. And thanks to COVID, the trend has accelerated even further with more positioning towards a different type of preventative health, immune boosting, added vitamins, minerals have seen an exponential growth, also sleeping aids. In drinks, we also see the blurring lines between different categories, alcohol, like drinks, non-alcoholic drinks. So all these lines have started to blur. The trends that have paused, obviously they are very much linked on how we consume food. So one is anytime, anywhere. We stay at home most of the time. So obviously this has been paused and transformed into slightly different trends that we will look deeper a bit later. Sensory indulgence, obviously plastic-free has been put on hold, but I've been speaking with our packaging research manager, and she said, not to worry, this will be back. And clean label is also has also been put on pause, because clean label, you know, it's also about a lot about positioning, and there is a trend that has accelerated, which is back to roots, back to you know, increasing awareness of country of original, which is usually labeled as organic or animal fare. It was very interesting to see the fastest growing categories in the UK. Food and drinks market. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the time. And we see the beautiful thing is that the categories that are the fastest growing categories across the UK food and drinks market, they very much correlate with the trends that we've discussed. Sour milk products perceived as healthier options, vegetable pulse and bread chips, also a healthier snacking option, milk alternatives, frozen meat substitutes. Within the drinks, I haven't mentioned, but the big trend is polarization. So the consumers are either looking for super premium or economy options, and the mainstream is not that of a big interest. Now, let's very quickly have a look at the trends and what is it for you? It's obviously nice stories, but what's in it for you? Yeah, focus on health and wellness, and I don't want to repeat myself, but it's a big trend to consume healthier meals, to drink healthier beverages, and it is expected to persist in the future. Our data shows that health and wellness packaged food is expected to outperform regular food offerings in terms of retail value growth over the forecast period by a small margin. And health and wellness accounted for about 1/5 of total packaged food value sales globally in 2020, and also grew by 5% in value terms. However, the ongoing global economic recession may be a threat because of affordability. Affordability becomes a key purchasing criteria. The change in shopping behavior. So here you see the results of our surveys that were done in October, July, and April 2020. And we were asking our consumers, we wanted to understand whether the trend of consumers buying more health and wellness related products is short-term or long-term. And we see that majority, majority, but 40+% of our consumers think that this trend will be permanent. Fortified and functional packaged food has been the largest health and wellness category, and it accounts for 1/3 of global health and wellness packaged food sales. And in terms of value growth, organic food and free from packaged food has shown the fastest growth. Okay, so what's in it for you? We had a look at. We've selected one category which is very tightly linked to the trends we've just discussed: protein and energy bars. So when you, for the priority exports market, we have developed a scorecard, and the score for each country is calculated based on the weight assigned for each metric indicator multiplied by the rank of that country respectively, across all countries that we researched, 48 in total. And then we assigned the weights. So for protein energy bars, China, Sweden, South Korea, USA, Turkey are the top countries, attractive countries, attractive export countries. Free from is another big trend, as we just discussed, and the rapid rise of flexitarian and plant-based diets have boosted sales of dairy and meat-free products, especially in Western markets and Asia Pacific. It's interesting that it's younger consumers that are driving this trend. 54% of Generation Z, they have meat or animal product eating restrictions, according to our health and nutrition survey that we conducted last year in February and March. The plant-based trend is actually expanding into new categories, into new dairy categories, such as cheese and sour milk products. However, it is priced premium, and the premium price also remains a challenge for growth during the economic recession. So here we had a look also at the attractive exports markets for you, or meat substitutes. We again see Sweden, Finland, Nordic countries being at the top. And I will just say that Nordic countries, in terms of health and wellness offerings, they literally are among the top leading countries. So you will see Sweden, Finland being almost in each chart that I will be presenting. And obviously USA, China, Malaysia, Australia, Germany, they also are among top 10. For milk alternatives, Sweden, USA, Russia, China, and Germany are the priority export markets. We also had a look at free from in baked goods, where we see Finland being the ranked at the top, followed by Switzerland, Australia, Netherlands, Norway. The pandemic had a huge and unpredicted impact on food. I know I have to start wrapping up quickly, so I will increase the speed of my talking. So it had an impact on not just, how much we buy, but how we buy, but also what and where we eat. And we see here a very sharp decline in food service sales. The biggest impact came from the shifting of millions of eating occasions into the home. And although lockdowns have been eased, so we've seen that the food service has declined. So instead of indulging ourselves going out, we started looking for indulgence at home. And one of the trends of the booming trends is permissible indulgence. Here we, since eating occasions shifted in-home consumers into our homes, and consumer shopping baskets also became larger, which also include snacks and snackification. So snackification before the pandemic was a big trend. Now snackification and becomes planned. So here we had a look, and on the other hand, it very much correlates with the health trend because snacks became healthier. So we looked at vegetable pulse and bread chips. Here, this category includes fried sliced chips, crisps made from sweet potatoes or other vegetables. Potato chips and crisps are excluded. So the top priority market is Turkey, followed by Australia, again, Sweden, Ukraine, Russia. And I see also Lithuania at the top. We consume a lot of bread chips. RTD coffee is also linked to permissible indulgence. And here we again see Turkey at the top, followed by USA, Australia, China, and Malaysia. Now, the new consumption habits impacted the surge in bottled water, and there was a decline in energy drinks for the first time in 15 years. And it was quite interesting to observe the off-trade increase in off-trade sales increase in juices. And this is also linked to the trend of eating at home and having breakfast at home. So here we had a look at the bottled water, functional bottled water priority markets, with Russia, China, Sweden, Australia, and USA being among the top 5. Health, well-being, and mindfulness is also a big trend across the drinks. And unfortunately, global soft drinks market declined by 3%. According to our scenarios, the market is expected to recover between 2021 and 2023. However, alcoholic drinks market was disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 due to the industry's strong reliance on on-trade consumption. And for better or for worse, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, we've started researching cannabis industry very recently where it's legal. It's still a big part of how consumers manage their well-being. Although even prior pandemic, consumers have already begun to form a more mindful and conscious approach to their intoxicants, and we see the younger demographics have reported drinking slightly less alcohol. This is still, consumers still need this. And here among soft drinks and alcoholic drinks, we see that the expansion into new functional benefit territories like digestive health, natural energy, and stress relief helps the category's growth. So in particular, fermented dairy products and beverages have experienced significant growth, and within the fermented beverages, kombucha, global carbonated RTDT and kombucha sales were also booming. So we've had a look at the priority markets for carbonated RTDT and kombucha. The US is one of the markets driving packaged kombucha growth, and it is also a key growth for the markets of probiotic supplements. So this is a very interesting sector, and the priority markets we see Australia, Finland, Belgium, USA, Norway, and we also see Sweden, Denmark. Another survey shows that we surveyed the industry professionals, drinks industry professionals, that premium beer, spirits, products with lower alcohol content are also, they see this as the new launches as the most important during the last years. So we've also looked at the categories for you, at the attractive categories to export: domestic premium lager, where China, Russia, Sweden, Argentina are at the top. A domestic economy lager with Russia, South Korea, Thailand, slightly different picture, and China being among top 4 or 5. And we also looked at ale with Finland, Australia, New Zealand. That's obviously the culture of drinking beer is slightly different, but we also see Russia being at the top. Obviously, when you export, you need to take many more factors than just global recovery index or category growth or category size in the selected country. These are the criteria that we took into account when we were prioritizing export markets for you. But I've also had a look separately at the ease of doing business. You would need to look when deciding at private label development and many other different factors. This is a roadmap for you Yeah. And the last trend that I wanted to speak about is the non-low alcohol beer. And we see that non-low alcohol beer as a category has been was growing during the last years, and the forecast is also very positive for non-low alcohol beer. The positioning has changed. Previously, we were talking about, kind of so no, from a negative side, there is no alcohol, while currently the positioning has changed, and the manufacturers have started looking at more positive sides of non-low alcohol beer. It started being positioned as premium and adult drink. So the markets for low alcohol beer are Australia, Finland, Sweden, Germany, Switzerland. And for the non-alcoholic beer, I was quite surprised to see Russia being at the top, followed by USA, Germany, Netherlands, Poland as well. So I'm finishing literally the key takeaways. The positive thing is that there is the signs and very solid signs of global recovery in 2021. Although the forecast for the UK is not that optimistic, it will return to pre-pandemic levels by 2024. China, Nordic countries, and Australia are the first to recover. When thinking about big B2B trends that are impacted businesses overall, you need to take into account product localization, e-commerce, sustainability, and obviously when we think about separate categories and consumer trends, it's anything related to health, functionality, organic food, the fastest growing category, plant-based, and then premiumization within the drinks. If you asked me about, you've given us so many countries, so where should we focus? I would say if you have any offerings with, linked to health and wellness trends, you should consider, apart from the traditional markets, large markets, the US, China, Germany, obviously Nordic countries present quite big opportunities for these trending categories. Thank you.